2024 has seen a virtual explosion in the number of generative AI tools out there. And by generative AI, I mean any AI that is able to create something that typically we would create. It could be a boring email to your boss, or it could be this exciting cityscape with flying animals going through it, an entire image of that. Both of those are generated before you would write that email, and the artist would create the animals flying through the cityscape. And now, though, we have these generative AI tools that can do this for us. You've probably heard of ChatGPT. It's the one that generates text, but it also generates images. Just ask it to come up with something in a certain style, and it will come up with that image. Pretty cool. But there are other ones out there as well. In terms of text generation, we have Claude 3. We also have Google Gemini that goes under the name or the guise of Bard. So if you've heard of Bard, Google Bards, it's now plugged in with Gemini technology. But that's a lot of names. For text, what about for the images? There's, again, ChatGPT, but there's also something called Midjourney that creates even more lifelike images. They have a more like a Renaissance painting vibe to them. So I prefer that oftentimes. But of course, you can play around with them as much as you want to see which images are better for you. And then there is one called Imagine Art that I recently stumbled on that gives you yet another image generator. So what's the point of all this? You're just coming up with generative AI tools and you're using them back and forth. Well, I think the point is that you want to combine these generative AI tools together to get the most out of all of them. Not just one of them, but by using them in concert or by using them together, you can really unleash their full potential. So I'm going to give you an example right now. Let's say my daughter's starting her own cupcake business, and she wants to come up with a logo for the best cupcake, given that she has a brand that is fun, young, and playful for her 12-year-old self. Now, she's not actually launching this business. She'd be a little bit too young, but let's just say she is. What would these things actually come up with? So on one side, I have two images of potential cupcakes that were generated by Imagine Art. But which one do I think is better? I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence. So what do? I ask one of the text generators, or they're also known as large language models like ChatGPT. What do you think of the cupcakes? Now you might be thinking, well, wait a second. You just said text. I can't just put the text of these cupcakes in there, can I? Well, no, but you can take screenshots, and you can take that screenshot and you can put it into ChatGPT, and you can take a screenshot of those cupcakes, and you can also put it into another large language model like Claude 3 and see what they think. And so here we are diving in. This is Claude's opinion. Tells us exactly which one it likes and why. And now we're going to switch to what ChatGPT says. And you can see, oh my gosh, they're different. They don't quite agree. And what I like to do now is I like to copy and paste the feedback from one into the other to see if I can sway its opinion. And I do that with both of them. And this is using what I call a tag team approach, where we're using multiple generative AI to kind of have a conversation or discussion with each other. And then I get that final feedback and I choose a cupcake one, which maybe they choose or maybe which I feel based on their feedback I think is best. But you're taking these models beyond what they can do individually by combining them. And then there's also other use cases beyond coming up with business logos. For instance, and then there's the always useful use case of the flying hamster. And what would we be without flying hamster art? Now, I asked it what I think is an impossible question. I went to Claude 3 and I asked it, which of the two hamsters is cuter? And there's obviously one right answer that is undebatable and objective, and that is they are both exactly the same level of super cuteness, and nothing can say otherwise. But what did Claude 3 say? Can we trust these things? And it said the exact same thing. You can't compare the cuteness, the infinity cuteness of both of these adorable flying hamsters. And let's not even get into that little birthday hat they're wearing. So you could see that using these generative AI technology, don't think of it as, oh, this is my favorite tool, I'm just going to stick with this one. But think of it as, I'm going to get comfortable with a few of these different tools. I'm going to ask them both to do the same thing, whether it's generate images of flying hamsters or whether it is to evaluate the email that I'm writing to my boss. But having multiple opinions, feeding those opinions back and forth between them to get a final say, a final outcome is a way to unleash the true power of these generative AI. So good luck and go flying hamsters. Are you feeling overwhelmed by all of the AI tools out there? Do you wish you could just get a handle? In fact, master these tools so that you can use them to their utmost potential and leverage them to whatever it is that you're doing. If so, head on over to elevateaicoaching.com. Simply click on the link in the description below.